Hi, this is God of Rabbits, and I'd like to talk to you today about my Path of Exile 3.1 Ngamahu's Flame Cyclone build. This build has been done quite a few times. There's some pretty good build guides available, and so I'm not going to talk a lot about the theory behind it. I'm going to talk about some of the more specific variants that I've done to the build. So if you want to check out a build guide, I'm going to link one in the description below, and you can read the exact build guide that I read, and you can take the changes that I've made and make them yourself, or use that as a springboard for even better ideas. So the question that I first had to answer when I did this build was, how am I going to proc my Molten Burst? I tried initially using Molten Strike, and Molten Strike is great, but the problem with Molten Strike is that you're not really as mobile as with Cyclone, and you have a dead time. When your balls are in the air, you're kind of standing there pounding the ground, and your balls are in the air, and you're not doing damage, so you're not necessarily leeching, and you can get hit a lot, and you can die. And with Cyclone, you're just kind of like moving through the map slowly and never in the same position, so it's hard to hit you. And so you have some additional utility in Cyclone that you don't have with Molten Strike. So if you want to pick up a Ngamahu's Flame, I would suggest Cyclone being the way to proc it. You also hit really, really fast, so you're going to get a lot of procs of Molten Burst. Cyclone hits twice per revolution, so you get a lot of procs, and you can only proc 8 times a second, so Cyclone's going to do you great there. So as the other change that I've made to this build is that I've decided to go with a Kaom's Heart. Now, the build guide that I use says to use Brion's Lithe, or to use Belly of the Beast, for instance, and 6-link it or 5-link it and put your Cyclone in there. However, with the introduction of Shaper and Elder Gloves, we don't really need to work as hard to get a 5-link. So that allows us to run Kaom's Heart in our chest, and that allows us to get that tremendous life pool, and we get additional fire damage, and surprise, surprise, 100% of our damage is fire damage. 50% is converted by Ngamahu's Flame, and the other 50% is converted by Zost's Blood. So that additional fire damage just scales everything. The way that we get these gloves is that we want faster attacks on them. We run Fortify in our links, so we could also theoretically get a pair of boots with Fortify. Elder boots are the ones with Fortify. So you could pick that up and run the same 5-link here just in your boots. So I'm running Cyclone with 1 damage support, elemental damage with attacks, and 2 utility supports in Fortify and increased AoE. And this is enough to clear T16 trash mobs, so you can basically move through them once going forward, and that'll kill them all. And so you're basically moving forward through maps at all times. Unless you hit a rare, you kind of grade on it a few times, and it'll proc a couple procs of Molten Burst. That'll kill everything, basically, and you're on your merry way. So that's the way that we are able to get our Cyclone in effectively a 4-link in our gloves. We do lose some additional utility because we have less links overall, but I mean, like, we lose, for instance, faster attacks on Leap Slam, but don't Leap Slam as much and you're okay. So effectively we get a huge life pool, which is always suitable for any build. In our Ngamahu's Flame, we're looking to put pure damage supports. We don't need to 6-link this, we just need to 6-socket it and just throw damage supports in, and that will all work with Molten Burst. We have added fire, GMP, concentrated effect, fire penetration, physical projectile attack damage, and elemental damage with attacks. Those are all damage supports. And so that allows us to have a huge amount of Molten Burst damage. And then we're going to round it out with, elemental damage, physical damage, fire damage, elemental damage with attack skills, fire damage with axes, fire damage to attacks. Any way to get fire damage, any way to get physical damage, throw it all in. It makes you scale up. We're looking for, on our jewelry, we're looking for like intelligence, we're looking for life, resistances, basically traditional jewelry. We definitely want Zost's Blood because it allows us to avoid having to get Avatar of Fire to convert all of our damage to fire damage. You can see Avatar of Fire is pretty far away from where we are in the tree. I chose to take Valpact and I chose to take Resolute Technique, but those are not mandatory on the build. If you didn't have Resolute Technique, you'd want to add Accuracy, but it would probably push you towards getting Elemental Overload, which is pretty far from where I'm at, but you get a dual socket, so you could change the tree and move up there and get Elemental Overload. I chose not to. This is a slightly more condensed tree. Allows you to pick up slightly more life, for instance, and Valpact is a reasonable addition to the build. That's about it. That's about the changes I've made. Obviously, you want a Stygian Vice. That's not a controversial change. Stygian Vices are best in slot. If they're available after 3.1, you're probably going to want a Stygian Vice at that point as well. Nothing tremendous in the flasks. You could add a Taste of Hate. You could add a Dying Sun. Dying Sun is synergistic with projectiles from Molten Burst. I am running a Red Dream. You could, for instance, add a Red Nightmare. Red Dream allows us to gain endurance charges so that we don't have to run, for instance, Warlord's Mark to gain endurance charges. We're running Flammability as a curse. We run that on cast when damage taken, along with Immortal Call and increased duration. So we have Flammability and we cover enemies in Ash, which is kind of like a curse. We're running Herald of Ash and Anger, mostly for fire damage. Running Leap Slam and Flame Golem as utility. Nothing big there. That's the build, basically. It's a tremendous amount of fun. It's inherently powerful. There's other builds, like my last build for 3.0 Explosive Arrow. I needed to scale fire damage a lot in order to get Shaper kill damage, for instance, for that build. This build can kill the Shaper as is, not using tremendously powerful rings, for instance. It has not very much damage on it at all. This is a fun build. It's defensive. It's hardcore viable. It does basically anything you want it to, and it blends. Does it blend? Yes, it blends. So if you want to try it out, use the build guide I used, supplement with changes I made, maybe make it creative, put changes of your own into it. Let me know how you like it. Thank you for watching very much, and have a great day. Bye.